Welcome to Let's Explain, a series of documented translations from magazines, images, and other sources, and this time we are taking a look at the early development of Zelda 64 on FamiMaga64, also known as FamiMaga, issues 3 and 16, before it became known as Ocarina of Time. The source scans were taken from Gaming Alexandria, link in description. Translations are by MiYaku Gaming and are absolutely free of censorship, while maintaining accuracy. Please consider supporting my translation efforts in the description below, so let's explain now. The Legend of Zelda, temporary name. The system draws near to Link's actions, town and dungeon from newly arrived photos. I noticed that blue rectangle, it looks like a cavern exit or entrance. If you look at the screenshots, I am noticing a motif used by illustrations, and this is probably what they were going for at the time. The light beam coming from the window reminds me of the lighting in the screenshot. It looks like Link was outside, as seen in what appears to be light outside, and made it to a dungeon or possibly a hidden area within the early town somewhere and made it to the Triforce. This may have been a simple idea to experiment with what was possible at the time, given the development team at the time thought the Nintendo64 was not powerful enough for it. The door closed and thus the light isn't there anymore as seen in the overhead photo. Development status. Sale date and price pending. Disk drive compatibility with Nintendo64, action RPG, capacity pending. I certainly saw Link jump with these eyes. The Legend of Zelda 64, temporary name. Opening to discovering the legendary Triforce. Opening movie. The curtain now opens to a new adventure to return to the Triforce. Currently, the Nintendo 64 RPG is still not on sale. In order to break down the current status, Nintendo sends the RPG, and everyone knows the Legend of Zelda series. The software's development advances well. I was able to confirm the upper field movement, moving Link around and the monster fight scene. And further, I can say the opening demo screen photos of the game's expression are complete. Let's go investigate what becomes the Legend of Zelda 64's rebirth on the Nintendo 64. By realizing the opening, the Triforce. In the dungeon are 3 of the floating mysterious Triforce, a symbol of the series. This Triforce design is also on the main character Link's shield. My opinion, not from the magazine, is the shield had a rupee-shaped cutout if you look closely enough. Now back to the magazine. And this time, it certainly appears the main theme of the story is the adventurous return to the Triforce. Sale is not the disk drive ROM. Though I had thought the Legend of Zelda 64 disk drive software was the first step, during the interview this time, the potentiality the ROM is on sale, information was a catch with information of research in Nintendo. As for the current phase, if whichever sale goes on, though it seems I cannot say, if there were a sale on the ROM, as for the 64 disk drive, I was told you can play the software at any time you want with new scenarios and map data inserted to the Legend of Zelda 64. Running across all countries 64 pilgrimage, The Legend of Zelda 64, temporary name. Explore a new adventure that became set in 3D three-dimensional space. As for The Legend of Zelda 64, the Nintendo 64's full functionality is on display, graphics and space are fully expressed in polygons. Needless to say, the main character Link, monsters and the setting of the adventure becomes the town and dungeon, and without exception to the field. It appears the adventure became possible with the usage of 3D polygons in 3 dimensions. As for the image, it's easier to consider Link's adventure of Mario 64's world, Freely moving around in the field of 3D space goes to introduce Link's new adventure setting. By the usage of polygons, the world becomes 3-dimensional. Though the adventure is possible in full 360-degree space, graphics of polygons are processed. Though the photos to the left appear to be the first wireframe of Link, it seems the game can be given the freedom of space. By the appearance of full 360-degree space of movement came to be a possible thing, I feel the camera angle. And to Mario 64 at the time, I expect there to be many players to say it just might be this angle here, and stamp their feet. A note on this is, the observer or player at the time was suggesting a person, out of many, playing the game might stomp one's feet from camera angles. This may be referencing Mario's butt stomp in Mario 64. This time, the Legend of Zelda 64's creation hits, though within Nintendo regarding the camera angle, Mario 64 is in production during the search for more comfort. There are many camera modes used, though it seems there are many points of view developing for ease of playability. I also anticipate it to be good, Utilizing the 3D space, a mystery and adventure begins. Though the adventure became 3D space, the Legend of Zelda series' same mystery and dungeons also come to abruptly change. On the opposite side of the buildings, there is a secret passage. From the cliff, I imagine I can drop down to a place I couldn't go to until now, you know. As for this interview this time, while it is unfortunate which mystery or challenge there is to conduct, though I did not confirm it, as if it's like 3D, three-dimensional, there are certainly many things you must solve that disappear. With right and down, by polygons created in 3D space, you can freely move the camera. Because it's completed by polygons, 360 degrees, freely cut the point of view, change the game world's adventure. And from the blind spot of the buildings, it seems like there are monsters that abruptly come to assault you, you know. Within the town. Within the fully polygonal composed town, it seems considerably spacious. The path has many complications, and it might appear to become a labyrinth path. And of course you can enter the houses. My opinion, not from the magazine, is those early town houses were actually dungeons. I think it is because they are the biggest buildings around that I have seen. Now back to the magazine. The original text implies you can enter a house or houses. The context is not clear about it, and because Japanese uses context, I assume it means houses, and I will use that from now on. Within the buildings. I expect the buildings' interiors to become dungeons. By no escape of the passages in space, if there are monsters you don't want to be confronted with, there's no reason to move, you know. Advance within the space of the 3D game field. Though walking around in 360 degrees, you don't somehow become a bit anxious like a lost child in the field. Again, you certainly must be cautious of the monsters attacking from the sky. Cavern. I figure the dungeons are synonymous with caverns. But the Legend of Zelda 64 caverns certainly come frequently. And this time, certainly there are hill roads among others within the dungeons. Images are all things in development. The search for smooth-like movement of Link and monsters. Although the action RPG of The Legend of Zelda is formally known, though as I know it's Link and the monsters' locations that weighs on me. What becomes of Link's particular usage of the sword in action? What kind of movement will I come to see with Link changed to 3D? Let's take a look, shall we? Those are Link's basic actions. The interview this time became clear. There are 4 varieties of Link's actions on the left. The sword action used in attack, vertical slash, and side slash are 2 types to observe here. And with power, though the vertical slash seems powerful, if it's side slash, it certainly seems many enemies can be defeated in one go. Again, if you advance with side slash, it seems the functionality also becomes rotation slash. Further, though this time it caught more attention of the news crew, Link's form of jumping. Until now, even though there was little steps in grades, though Link had not soared, by that there are places that may differ with high and low jump variations, you know. Running. Holding the sword in the left hand, it appears it can move to attack status at any time while running. Horizontal slash. Swinging down, the sword's blade trail cuts the beautiful air. If a monster is flying in the low sky, it certainly seems the enemies can be killed with a horizontal slash, you know. H vertical slash. Monsters directly vertical are cut up in half. Though the extent of attacks are vast, the monsters are also overwhelming. Jump. Link's new action. It isn't just the enemies of the sky to attack this time. If it was a little, you will certainly jump from one grade to another. Basically, this is referring to Link's new action in jumping, and from the looks of it, the longer you held whatever button it was to make you jump, the higher you jumped. Defenseless when walking. When walking, it appears the sword status is dedicated to sheathed. Monsters are also fully polygonal. Obstructs Link's path. The unpleasant, stubborn monster also comes to attack fully created in polygons. Without losing to Link with the best of them, the monsters' actions certainly come to be diverse in numbers. Though I was able to confirm by the interview this time, though there are just 2 monsters on the left, and with that exception, still formidable, and that strong enemy comes to appear. And what kind of enemies appear? Is it fun? Smooth-like movement impels fear. Stalfos. Equipped with the sword, up to furnished with a defensive shield, is the Stalfos. As for the previous work, though the boss character came to appear, as to expect for the Legend of Zelda 64, what will become of it? Defeat and defeat, come to stubbornly rise, and this time, certainly it becomes well. Surrounded by many Stalfos. It's a problem surrounded by monsters to defeat. Iron Knuckle. A monster with a suspicious, metallic shimmering body. It is necessary to caution the drawn sword trail's destructive power swung downward by this mysterious thing. Though seems to have power, it can endure 1 blow of damage. Up and left, first appearance of monster, Iron Knuckle. How powerful is it? I think it seems there will be time taken to fully make use of the game becoming the 64-disc drive. Due to this containing very little mention of Zelda 64, here is a summary. Shigeru Miyamoto discusses the idea of Nintendo 64 games being more based in reality and references some games without much detail. Near the end of the page, Zelda 64 was at 50% development completion at the time and Miyamoto joked about 10% more. The Legend of Zelda 64, temporary name. The first title to become a 3D action RPG. Though this was also expected to be a big hit with the Super Famicom's version base, it seems it changed into something considerably different. The photo is from last autumn of last year. It appears to have changed considerably now. With that out of the way, thank you for your viewership and please consider supporting these translation efforts in the links, no pun intended, below.